Good morning. Welcome to Kensington Church. We're so glad that you've joined us here online today at the Orion campus. And we got a couple of announcements we'd like to share with you while you are home. So first of all, we want to let you know that there is a family night this Wednesday night put on by our K-Kids program. It is an online virtual service for families, and they got a lot of fun stuff. They even got some fun prizes that they're going to give away this Wednesday. So it's Wednesday night. You can sign up with your family online. And then we also want to invite you to join us on our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group, if you didn't know that. Facebook group for Kensington Orion, and we'd love for you to jump in and join us and join the conversation. Also wanted to let you know that after services, we have an online virtual hangout in our Facebook group after services are done. So we would love to catch you there. And also, one more thing I wanted to let you know. By the way, my name is Michael Bouchard. Forgot to introduce myself. I'm the Student Ministries Director here for Kensington, and I am over middle school and high school. So just want to let you know we have our middle school and high school services in person tonight and also next weekend, and we would love to see them there. So it's 5 o'clock for middle school, 6:30 for high schoolers here at the building. So thanks for joining us this morning, and sit back and enjoy what God has for you.
Well, it's that time of the year. We've already had a few dustings of snow, and I'm reminded of the awe and wonder this season brings every year, especially when I drive down my street and I see houses lined up with different colors and arrangements of lights. Have you ever stopped to consider that it's the darkness that brings out the beauty of those lights? It's when the night is darkest that we can really see the light of even a single candle. And a single candle in the window whispers something. It whispers welcome, that there's hope here. A single candle reminds us God is sending his light into the darkness. It reminds us that there is no darkness in our lives that can't be lit up by this special light. This light is a person, and his name is Jesus. And we're going to be celebrating the birth of Jesus, the light of the world, both in person and online starting December 23rd. Tickets are available for in-person services, so please reserve some seats for you and your friends and your family that are planning to attend. And of course, to ensure safety and physical distancing, tickets are going to be limited. We know that many of you will be watching from home this year, so we're creating an online-only exclusive service made just for you. To create the most memorable and meaningful service, we have a Christmas at-home kits available for you to pick up at your campuses. In those kits, there'll be candles for the family, the world's best hot cocoa. I have no idea where we found the world's best hot cocoa, but we have it. A star ornament craft and many things for the family will be included in these kits. So please reserve your kit and find more information about online services as well to reserve your tickets. You can do that right at kensingtonchurch.org. Christmas. The theme for this year is fitting in so many ways. It's called Home for Christmas. We'll be looking at the Christmas story through the eyes of the wise men, the Magi, who came one way, but then they left another. And no matter where you're watching Christmas services from this year, either in person or online, we truly believe that you will encounter Jesus. That's why we do this. We want people to encounter the light of the world, just as the wise men did. And guess what? When they did, it changed everything. It'll be nostalgic and beautiful. Maybe it'll be a little bit like this clip from Christmas at Kensington in 2012. Man, there's something about looking back at the past with fresh eyes. Today kicks off a brand new series that we're calling Foundations, and I'm super excited about this series because together we're going to explore the beginnings of Kensington, the way that God grew and shaped this community, and we're going to be hearing from each of the founding couples. And today we're going to kick it off with Mark and Callie Nelson. You know, Mark and Callie have a very, very special place in my heart, in my wife Amy and our family. Mark really took a chance with me almost 20 years ago where he hired me to come on staff, and I was so new in my faith. I look back now and I cannot believe that he actually did that. But he brought me on staff and he walked with me and really did disciple me and train me in the ways of arts, in the ways of church, and more importantly, in the ways of Jesus. So I just owe so much to Mark and Callie, and I'm so grateful that you get to hear from them today. So sit back, really take in what God is going to do today. Thank you for joining us.
Kensington. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love for you to stand and worship with us as we sing this song. I pray that you would just make it a prayer for your heart before the Lord as you prepare to receive what He has for you this morning. Narrow as the road may seem, I'll follow where your spirit leads. Broken as my life may be, I will give you every peace. I hear you call, I am available. I say, yes, Lord, I am available. Here I am with open hands. I'm counting on your grace again. Oh, less of me and more of you. I just wanna see you move. I hear you call, I am available. I say, yes, Lord, I am available. I hear use me how you want to, God. Have your throne within my heart. I hear you call. I am available. I say yes, Lord. I am
Morning. Actually, would you do this? Hold on. Would you just stay on your feet for 1 minute? Here's what I'd love to do for a second. If we could kind of just stay in that place of available. What a great request to lay out before God. God, I'm available. And I really believe this. This is more than going through the motions when we come on a Sunday morning. The scriptures say that his mercies, God's mercies, are new every morning, which means that this morning there's something new that I think God has for every single one of us. And the only thing that may stand in the way of us getting from him what he wants to give to us is a heart posture that says, I'm available or not. And so here's what I'd love to do is just for a minute, just kind of stay in that place. And I just want to ask you, I'm gonna be silent for a minute and just ask you, however you would pray to God, is to just reiterate that request to him. Just reiterate that statement to him. I'm available. So give me what you have for me today and help me to receive it. Would you just say that to him, however you say, whether it's internally or maybe even out loud? Just take a minute and stay in that place, would you? Father, I'm thankful that you are available to us. What a crazy idea that the God of all creation makes himself available to his creation. You're not distant, absent, require a meeting ahead of time, put us in a line that maybe we'll get to you, that you make yourself available to us at any moment. And so God, we want to say to you, we are available. And so whatever you have for each of us this morning, I pray that you would give us the ability in our hearts and in our minds to take it from you, to receive it from you. In Jesus' name, amen. Go ahead and have a seat. I love how Jocelyn started this morning by saying that she was leading us into a moment of worship. And I want to tell you, I think that probably one of the most misunderstood words at times in the church world is the word worship. When we think about worship, we usually think music. And yet the truth is, it's the entire morning. It's the moment that we are about, any moment in this building, out of this building, that we are about trying to lift up and make much of the name of Jesus. When we're trying to do what he said is the two most important things to do, ways to live, which is to love him and to love others, which is why what we're going to do right now as a community, I just want to remind you, is every bit as much worship as anything else we ever do together that is about Jesus. We're going to take up our offering this morning, and I just want you to know this genuinely is a moment of worship. It's not a moment of giving so much as it is a moment of worship. Because it is moments like this that genuinely create for us opportunities to continue to love God and to love other people. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you about one of the cool opportunities because of your generosity that we're able to do different this year in response to the crazy year we've been in. 2020, absolutely ridiculous year. So many of us have been impacted by it directly, many of us indirectly, but we've been impacted by it. And so one of the things that we're doing different and unique this year as a result of your generous giving is we've started something called Hope for the Holidays. Because we just know that there's a lot of us, some of us here in this room, listening online, and especially people that all of us represent that we know that could use a little extra something this year just to let them know they're cared for, they're loved, they're valuable. So Hope for the Holidays is one of the ways that we want to put a tool in your hand to do just that with a $25 Meijer gift card. So here's all you have to do. If you yourself or you know somebody that could benefit from a $25 gift card to Meijer, all you have to do is text HOPE to that phone number on your screen, and no questions asked. We'll just ask for an address where to send it. When you text into that number, we'll send you a card. Again, whether for you or whether for you to give to somebody else and to bless them, we want to put a tool in your hands to be able to do what we all are encouraged to do, which is genuinely be the hands and the feet of Jesus during this season. So please take advantage of this. I think this is an awesome opportunity. And again, one that's created by you and your generosity. So as we do take up our offering this morning, I just want to remind you there's a couple ways to do this. Every week we have more people joining us in person for the first time. So if you are one of those people today, it'll be a little bit different. We do not pass anything, probably for obvious reasons right now. You can still give online through our app, through texting in, through our website. And then for those of you that love to do the physical giving, on your way out at both of these doors, there's going to be an opportunity to do that. So I just want to thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your giving. It really is doing the mission of the gospel, which is loving and serving people. And I think Hope for the Holidays is just a great example of that this year. So like Danny said in the video a minute ago, we are starting a series for the next 3 weeks, which is going to take us through really the last 3 decades, looking at 30 years of Kensington's history through the eyes of the 3 founding families of Kensington. This morning, we're going to look at Mark and Callie Nelson's story. And I don't know if you've met Mark before. I don't know if you know Mark. You're going to get an awesome opportunity to get to meet him and hear his heart in just a little bit. I'll tell you, the first time I ever met Mark was a really cool experience. So I planted a church years ago, Kensington. You guys helped us get that church started. And I was probably a couple months away from going public. We had a small core team, maybe 60 people, 50 people. And I was going to be out of town for a weekend, and we had nobody. We had no resources at this point. We had no staff. I was the staff. And so we had no worship person that Sunday because they were going with me to this conference. We had nobody to speak, so I called up Kensington because this is a place that helped us get started. And I'm like, hey, you guys got tons of people. You have a spare musician? Do you have a spare speaker? Somebody can come over and talk? And they're like, oh, yeah, I think we can hook you up. We can send somebody. Don't worry about it. We got you covered. What I didn't know is that Mark Nelson is the one that came, which I just thought was so incredible. Like, we were this group of ragtag, nothing professional about us at the time. Like, it just 50 of us in a room trying to figure out what to do. And here comes Mark Nelson, the head of everything creative at a mega church in the area that carved out time on a Sunday morning to come be with us and serve us. And like that was one of my very first experiences with him. And the few that I had over the years after that were all the same. Just this unbelievable servant's heart. And one of the things you'll get to hear in the video in just a minute when we meet Mark is not just his servant's heart, but particularly the way that God shaped his servant's heart in the area of arts and creativity, and so much of what so many of us have benefited from on Sunday mornings and other experiences like this when we've gathered. And what's so cool is as you hear his story, you begin to realize it's not just something that is given to him by God. I believe it's actually something reflective of the very heart and nature of God himself to be a creative, to be an artist. One of my favorite sections of verses in the Bible comes out of a book called Psalms, chapter 19, and this is what it says about God. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech, and night after night they reveal knowledge. They have no speech. I love this. They have no speech. They have no words. No sound is heard from them, yet their voice goes out into all the earth. They have no speech, but they have a voice. One of the most powerful realities about artistic moments, or any kind of art, be it a painting, a sculpture, a poem, whatever it is, a structure, is that art has the ability without words to have a voice. And one of the things that Mark, I think, led Kensington in so beautifully throughout the years is a belief that art could be used to become the voice of God, that it could be used to reflect him, to cast him, and ultimately to draw us to the person of God through artistic moments. And we've all had moments where art has spoke to us without a voice, like every one of us. And not just in the experience of a Sunday morning, but maybe it's a sunrise or a sunset or an ocean wave or Even a lit up city landscape. We've all had moments where we have seen something artistic and beautiful, and it talked to us. It spoke to us. Remember years ago, I have a picture. This is my family. We went to the Grand Canyon a couple years ago. My wife, Nicole, and I took our kids. They'd never been this far out of town, and we went out to the Grand Canyon. There it is. And I remember that moment sitting at the edge of the Grand Canyon before that picture, just looking out at that whole scenery and just being in awe and having this moment where I genuinely felt like I heard God whisper into my ear, I made this for you. Like art, whether it's the art of creation or the art that we as the created create, has an unbelievable ability to communicate without ever using words. One of the things that Mark believed deeply is in the ability, whether it was the art of drama or lighting or stage design or the setup of a room or so many other avenues, he had believed that it had the ability to draw us to Jesus and become the voice of God. And that has become so foundational to who we are as a community and has been so important to so many of us in our journey with and towards Jesus. So for the next couple minutes, here's Mark and Callie Nelson.
I remember as like a teenager, not sleeping well at night, being concerned or worried, but I had a relationship that was very private with God. Never talked with anybody else about it, but it was real. And quite often I would get up middle of the night, 2 in the morning, and go walking down our long driveway to Coulter Road. And I remember praying, just talking with God, and tears running down my face. I remember seeing stars through the tree canopy. I would sing How Great Thou Art, because I knew that song from going to church, and that's how I felt. I was just amazed, just an immense love for beauty, the power of creation, the wonder of it, and I think I kind of developed that childlike heart. The first time I actually felt something deeply from art was actually when I was a freshman in high school. My mom, she made me play in the band. And I was terrible. I mean, I did audition. Everybody had to audition, and I got last chair trumpet, just a total embarrassment. But the guy that was the director that year, his name was Joe Dobus, University of Michigan graduate, rookie teacher, came in, and he was convinced that music was the greatest thing ever. And that it wasn't about playing notes, but it was about getting to feel it, to create an emotional expression that was meaningful. We're all just like, yeah, whatever, dude. We were terrible. We didn't know what he was talking about. Everybody was screwing around, and it was just a mess. But over that year, he kept at it, and he worked really, really hard. And I remember the day that actually this podunk group of kids playing, and actually we did something that was really beautiful and moving, like expressive, and it was in tune, and it actually sounded good for the first time. And I remember everybody just I remember looking around, and everybody's like, oh, what the heck was that? And from that moment on, he kind of had our attention a little bit. And over about a 3-year period through high school, he developed a program where a great number of kids were getting, they were going to the big universities on music scholarships and stuff out of Lapeer, Michigan. My bar for excellence in all things, I didn't even realize it had happened, but I would compare Joe Dobus as a teacher to my football coach and to my biology teacher and anything else that I was kind of evaluating. So I went to college as a music major and ended up teaching my first year out at Oakland Christian School. What was interesting is the very first time I was troubled by the fact that it looked like if you were a follower of Jesus, if you're a Christian, that you had to kind of make a choice to be in a lesser camp. But if you were going to be really good, you couldn't really stay in that camp. You had to kind of go to the secular university and pursue this, because that's where the really great stuff was. And it's kind of made me mad. And I read a book by Francis Schaeffer's son, and it was called Addicted to Mediocrity. And I didn't read books very much at all, but that book helped me kind of put language to what I was feeling. And it was saying, why have we allowed the church and Christianity to be a place where it's just kind of mediocre at best, but the really good stuff is reserved for people and artists outside the church? And that just never went away. And so When I got to Oakland Christian, I think I tried to be Joe Dobas, wasn't very good at it. But I really was trying to help my kids sense what I had sensed, something that was worth being a part of, worth listening to, that would move my heart deeply, you know. And over years of, you know, wanting to kill the kids and the kids wanting to kill me, we kind of got there, you know, and began to experience expressing things that were really powerful. Now, what happened is, when I met my wife, Callie, we started kind of it was like a sing and dance kind of a thing. And in a Christian school back in the 80s, that was not allowed. But what happened is the kids were really gifted. It wasn't anything we did. They were super gifted as musicians and so forth. And they were able to communicate things so powerfully. And we would travel to churches. Surprisingly enough, this kind of secular type thing was moving people in church. Callie and I were married in 1985. And in 1986, we started attending this new church, and it was called Faith Church in Rochester. And lo and behold, a few months into that, this guy named Steve Andrews took a job there as an associate pastor at Faith Church. And but the neat part about him coming was that he had the charge and the permission both to plant a church, and it was supposed to be within 3 to 5 years. And so I'm like, wow, is this a real thing? People do this, you know? And then shortly after that, Dave Wilson came from the University of Nebraska to become the chaplain for the Detroit Lions here in Detroit. He lands there. Somebody told him about this little church start in Rochester Hills, and so he came and ended up there. And so within a period, less than a year, all three of us ended up at Faith Church.
When I first saw Mark and Dave and Callie, Ann wasn't on the stage, but they were up leading the praise music before the beginning of the service at Faith Church. We weren't allowed to do praise music in the service. And they're up there, and Dave's kind of got a mostly comb over, and he's playing guitar, and Mark was up there singing, and I had two impressions. One is that Mark had about the most beautiful voice that I'd ever heard anybody at that time. Such a beautiful singing voice. And he and Callie together were angelic, but I didn't realize that he was a star quarterback for Lapeer High School, that he had all these other gifts. And of course, then meeting Dave, I didn't realize that both of these guys, we all three were quarterbacks, only they were good. You know, both those guys were actually good. And so we started hanging out and playing basketball and working out. And what we found is that we all had the same passion, which was for our generation to meet Jesus. We all had great experiences with Jesus and bad experiences with church.
When it comes to my role in Kensington, it's kind of strange that it actually happened for me because I didn't like church. I didn't really want anything to do with it. I loved Jesus, but I just didn't enjoy church, and it was never meaningful to me. And so Steve came to me one day and said, hey, I would love for you to consider being part of starting a new church with me, a church for the unchurched, people that don't like church. And I'm like, dude, you're coming to the wrong person. I'm not interested. He's like, okay, I know you won't do it, but would you just do this for me? Would you just take a trip across the country and visit a couple places? So he wanted to take me to Saddleback Valley Church, which was Rick Warren's church out in Southern California, and then a couple others out in California, and then on our way back, stop at Willow Creek Church in Chicago. On the West Coast, it was interesting, I enjoyed it, but it didn't resonate. But when I got to Willow Creek Church and saw something that was so powerful that used different methods of reaching people. So that back then it was drama, you know, video didn't really exist, but music that was written from a real life standpoint, portraying people as real people, connecting with a God who loved them as they were, and it was done really, really well. Like, it was very moving to me. I looked at Steve and I said, is that what you're talking about doing? Because I didn't get it. And I said, if that's it, I think I could do that.
I want to welcome you to Kensington Community Church. It's perfect for today's modern family. It's called Video Dad.
Video Dad?
Video Dad?
After a few years into Kensington, we came up with a mission statement for the arts, and it was to create moments for people to engage with God. And we thought about it a long time, like, what is it that we actually are trying to do? And because we know that, and we knew that we couldn't transform the heart. That's the work of Jesus alone. So we weren't in the business of transformation. That's him. What were we in the business of? And I felt like God, for that moment, called us to create these moments and create a space where people could slow down enough to even be in a posture where they could hear what God was doing, what he was inviting them to be a part of, what he was inviting them to feel about the reality of their life.
The spoken word is one thing, a sermon is powerful, but sometimes it's a drama skit that's so relatable or an artistic moment that's so beautiful or so powerful or so emotional, it cuts right in, and it does something you can't do with a spoken word. And so we wanted to use all of that to say, can we take people on a journey, especially people that don't believe God is relevant to their lives, watch the Spirit of God lead them to himself, and arts and the powerful preaching of the living word of God would all be a big part of that.
I feel like God called us to help people see that these dichotomies that were in their minds of secular life, just my life, my business life, my family life, and then I've got this church thing over here that I do with God. And they're supposed to coexist. They're supposed to be together. And so I think that's what we had the privilege of doing, was actually connecting with the thing that people cared about the most in a context where they could actually feel it and almost admit it to themselves, maybe for a first time, and then have a presentation of a loving God without judgment, embracing them and loving them in that space.
And every time I go for a promotion and you give me the laundry list of reasons why I won't get the job, you're not supporting me. And every time you say that you're gonna buy salami and don't, you're not supporting me.
I'm sorry, Bobby. I'm sorry.
The good movies, good films, they reach in and they help you identify with your greatest needs, your greatest feelings, your greatest fears, your greatest longings. So it's in another character. Well, you've got a grid, right? So I'm watching this character, but my grid of my life is over it like this. So I'm seeing the character through my life and all the different parts of it. And so I felt like the challenge was to say, because you could take a topic. What's the topic of the message? Well, being wise with your finances. Okay. Well, I've listened to that. Well, we didn't have to come up with a song with the name finances in it, right? Or do a video that was the latest about. What we had to do was, I felt like we needed to think, okay, wait a second. So what are people feeling about finances? Well, one of them is they're freaked out. They're freaked out because it's out of control, the credit card debt. And so what we would do in the arts was not to talk about finances. We would try to present and help them connect to, I'm freaked out and I don't have any control over this. What do I do? Because if I can help them own that and realize that is their reality, then it's like now they want to hear what you have to say. I think God did something really amazing. Is that I think he brought Steve and Dave and I together for a very specific reason. And we brought really different things to the table. So Steve has this powerful apostolic gift where he has a heart for reaching people of all nations, of all people types, and having them experience Christ and having the church grow and moving into that's his heart. It's move to people that don't know, right? And Dave's, like that, but different, is more of an evangelist approach. He's like, I want everybody to come to know Jesus, but it's going to be right here, me and you. And Dave has this amazing teaching gift to go along with that.
Mark had a prophetic gift, which was, what is God saying? What mountain? Where are we going? What are we hearing from God? It was sort of a prophet's gift. And so those three together, it was a beautiful mix. It really worked, and we all understood our different roles and we ran fast.
As our first 4 kids got older, we were able to experience those opportunities of singing together and being a part of this mission. You know, we always brought our kids along on the mission, but then they really got a chance to be active participants in it. And as a mom, those are treasured memories for me. I think for me personally, there were artistic moments that I was a part of and artistic moments that I didn't play a part in, but I got to watch these people that I loved and was living life with create this beautiful moment through their craft.
To actually step out in obedience to what he's asking you to do when you're like, I don't know how in the heck this is gonna happen. That's what he did on a weekly basis. I think probably my fondest memories are the times when our whole team was literally sweating bullets when we came in for a rehearsal that morning, because we knew, whoa, this could go really bad. and then God would put it all together, and I can't tell you, I would say hundreds of times we'd be in the wings and we would just put our arms around each other. So I remember Keith and Sandy Callan, Steve Matar, Joe Armillo, Kristen Twilla, you know, all these people, and we would hug each other and tears would be coming down our face because we knew we couldn't do this. And he did it. I remember so many times we'd be in the back and go, oh my gosh, look what he did. I think what I learned is I'd heard that term from the story of Moses where God says, pick up the stick, and basically the whole concept of use what's in your hand. What I give you is enough. And Moses is like, I can't do this. There's no way I can go to Pharaoh, right? He's gonna kill me. And God basically said, use what's in your hand. And that became a war cry for us. And all of these values or these war cries were birthed out of experience. It was seeing God go, hey, you got what you need. I just think that's what's so exciting, and it's not a Kensington thing. This is a life thing, and I think more and more as we've gotten older, this is what God has done more. I thought when you got to be about 25, you figured out what you were gonna do for your career, you found a spouse, and you locked in and did it for the next 50 years. And you get those 2 decisions right. You get the right career, you get the right spouse, you're set. And one of the biggest surprises of life for me, and I think for you too, is that as we go through life every day, God's like, hey, I got this idea, and it's bigger than me, and I don't want to do it, and I can't do it. And he's inviting me into that every day. Why? Because he wants to do something that's God-sized, not Mark-sized. He said, yeah, anybody can do that. I want you to do something that only I can do. And that's been our experience over and over and over, whether it's Kensington services or if it's our family. He's always, regularly, daily calling us into something that without him, I can't do it. Everybody who's at Kensington now is on an adventure. And none of us, the adventure is Kensington. Kensington's not the adventure. It's Jesus that's the adventure. It's Jesus calling you and your unique created being that he made you into something in partnership with the Holy Spirit that could never be done by another person, never will be done by another person. That's our excitement for people, every person, that they would find there. Some of them, they're gonna have that adventure at Kensington. Some of them are not. And it doesn't matter. What matters is that we can get to a place where we can surrender with no agenda and say, God, have me.
Here's my life.
Here's my life. You lead me, I'll follow. Well, wait a minute, I can't afford that. I don't have the resources. I'm scared to death. I hate that. I'll follow. And when we do that, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be Kensington in 10,000 different iterations. Kensington, as we knew it, has already happened, and it will never happen again. So I hope nobody tries to duplicate that.
Right.
It's not supposed to be duplicated. That was for us, that was our adventure. what is going to happen in this next season is going to be more wonderful. It's going to be something that has never been done before, that is going to explode the kingdom, right? And so I just am excited to see. For everybody that's connected to the Kensington family in any way, there's unlimited potential and varieties of assignments that God is going to call people into.
I love that so much. I was thinking this last week after watching the first cut of that video and hear Mark share his story. It reminded me of my earliest memory was 5 years old. I think after that, I'm like 8. But I genuinely have a very vivid memory of 5 years old, and it was sitting in a classroom on Sunday morning, week after week after week, on this multicolor rope carpet. You remember those? You could like follow them around when you were a kid. You'd follow them all the way around like a racetrack. And Mrs. Jessie, sweet little old Mrs. Jessie, every Sunday, teaching us rowdy, rambunctious little kids about Jesus. And I don't know if Mrs. Jessie would have ever described herself as an artist, a creative. I don't know if she ever wrote a poem or painted a picture, but it dawned on me this last week that she was an artist. She was a creative. And what she created week in and week out was explanation of this book to a 5-year-old heart. What she created were moments of inclusion where we felt a part of something. What she created was consistency, where every week we knew we could depend on Mrs. Jessie being in that classroom. And I know there was a distinct moment at 5 years old where somehow God used all of that she had been creating into that classroom to, in the way that a 5-year-old mind can, to lead me to understand that there was a God and that Jesus is him and that I wanted to know him. I think one of the things that we can walk away from a morning like this doing is celebrating the story we just heard, feeling a part of an incredible legacy, but then concluding that thank goodness for artists like Mark, and miss that the reality is we all are. God has put a unique creative artistry into every single one of us. As a matter of fact, in the book of Genesis, in the first couple of chapters, it tells us not just about God's creation of all things, but I think in his creation of all things, it tells us something about God that then tells us something about ourselves. Genesis chapter 1 says this: in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." I love the phrase that it says very clearly. The first thing we meet about God in the Bible is, in the beginning, God created. At the heart of who God is, he is a creative artist who created obviously not just all that exists, but creates us. And then part of what he does in his creation of us is imparts some of his nature into us. Genesis, same chapter, 26 says this: "Then God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and over the livestock and all the wild animals, over all of creation that moves along the ground. And so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them." I love this because what it tells us, in the beginning, God created. God is an artist. And then it says God put his image and likeness into us. Let us make man, let us make woman in our image and in our likeness, which means God puts his creative nature into us. You and I are artists. We are creatives. That's how we were made. It's how we were designed. And you see it all the way back from the first people God made, all the way through the stories of the Bible to present day. You think of Adam, and it's just fascinating. This alone could be the entire morning to talk about. But what did God give Adam to do when he creates Adam? He puts him in charge of a what? A garden. Not anything else that we could come up with that God did. Instead of making Adam go to church or make Adam do any number of other things, he gives him a garden. He puts him in a place where he has to himself create, tend, care for, imagine, dream. And you look at Adam's son, Cain. Cain goes on to eventually have a family of his own. And part of what he does in reaction to having a family of his own is he decides we need a place of our own. So Genesis tells us that Cain builds a city, and he names that city after his son, Enoch. You skip over to the next book of the Bible, Exodus. Exodus tells us in chapter 31, it's the first account of God's Spirit actually in somebody. And I want you to see to what end we're told that the Spirit of God inhabits this person. Chapter 31, verse 1. And then the Lord said to Moses, "See, I have chosen Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skill." Now watch this. To what end? To make artistic designs for work in gold, silver, and bronze. So God says, I chose him, I filled him with my Spirit to create. You and I are artists. And you might go, I'm not an artist. Like that's people like Mark. He's a creative. He's an artist. And I would say absolutely not. We all are, because we were made in the image and in the likeness of the one who created the stars, who created sunsets, who created sunrises, who created crashing waves on oceans. That God took his nature and likeness and formed it into us. We're artists. And every day we live, we have the opportunity to create moments of beauty and moments that point people to the creative artist, that point people to Jesus. My daughter even reminded me of this. She's 13 this last week. And I don't know if I would have caught this without thinking about this message and in light of this whole series. But the other day, she was so excited for Christmas. She was begging her mom to take her out shopping, not for herself. She's so unique. This was not me at 13. I don't know if this was you. She doesn't talk at all about what she wants for Christmas. It's all about what she's going to give her friends. So she's got this whole list of gifts. Not one of them are for her. It's all what she wants to do for all the people she loves. So she goes out with my wife the other day, Nicole, and they go shopping, and she comes home, and she brings in all this stuff. She's like, Dad, and I got this for Addison, and I got this for, and I did get to the end of it, and I go, I noticed that I'm missing from your list. She goes, I'll take care of you eventually. But she's got all of these things on this list, and she's just beaming. Like, I've never seen somebody so excited to give gifts away. And I think especially in light of this morning, I sat there and I thought, my precious little Jocelyn is an artist. She's a creative. And she's creating constantly. I see this now in a different way. She creates relationship. She creates compassion. She creates moments of care. She creates moments of inclusion, constantly wanting to make sure that people don't feel left out. She just has this unbelievable way of creating love from her into the relationships around her. You are an artist. And one of the worst things that could happen on a day like today is to walk away and celebrate only Mark and miss that part of what Mark was trying to, I think, tell all of us all of these years is that we have been made by an artistic God to be a reflection of his creative nature. And every day we live, we have the ability to create beautiful moments, moments that point people to Jesus. So my only real question for you on a day like today, my only challenge for you is just to ask yourself, in the life that you are living, are you creating what you want to create? Like, are you creating what you want to create with your life? And the life that you are creating, does it point people to the beauty of Jesus? Like in your marriage, are you creating what you want to create? In your family, are you creating what you want to create? In your neighborhood, are you creating what you want to create? In your workspace, are you creating what you want to create? At school, are you creating what you want to create? Like, is your life creating what you want it to create? Because remember Cain, Adam's son, went on to build a city. He called it Enoch. If you know the story of the Bible, you know this. Before he built a city, he had a brother, and he killed his brother. It's the first recorded murder in the pages of the Bible, which means that we also have the power as much not to just create moments of beauty, but moments of pain and destruction. And so is your life creating what you want it to create? And to where you or I might answer no to that, the question would just be, then what has to change? Because you were made to be a reflection of the Creator and create with artistic ability that is unique to you. Maybe you'll never pick up a paintbrush, make a structure, build anything, write a poem, but you, every single day that you live, as much as I, have opportunity to create moments of beauty that point to Jesus. Mark really believed this. He believed this about us as a people. He believed this about us as a community. And that's why for so long he poured into us becoming this. And so many of us are here because of that, because of the way that some artistic moment that was created here drew us in, or the artistry of somebody who was here that invited us, loved us, cared for us, drew us ultimately, not just here, but towards the person of Jesus. One of the ways that we've also seen that happen and been impacted so many times throughout the years is through our kids, through our children here at Kensington. We know this. We know that when we're younger, we have much more of an ability to dream and imagine and be artistic. And as we start to get older, unfortunately, I think there's a tendency to start to lose a lot of that, which I think is part of the reason that maybe Jesus even once said, if you want to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child. There's a certain nature of artistry and imaginative and just creativity and beauty and trust that is the heart of a child, that he says you have to cling to that, keep that, live out of that place. That's the kingdom of heaven. And I think one of the clearest places that we've seen this over the years, again, was the creation of something that Mark directly influenced, which is our Kaleo kids. So we have one more video for you this morning that I want you to watch and just, again, get a picture not just of the impact of Mark, but what happens when we truly believe that we have been made by a creative God to ourselves be creative. So here's a story of Renee Mullenix and Kaleo kids.
I was a student in the very first class of the Kensington School of Arts back in probably 1997. Through the School of Arts and with Mark Nelson being one of my mentors, I started to kind of see this bigger vision for what these passions that I had for music. One of the foundations of the School of Arts was that you're a child of God, that you're loved by Him, and anything that you create should come out of that. So after I graduated college with my music degree, and I got married, we ended up here at Kensington again. And I started out as a music teacher for a program that was called New Community Kids at the time. We met on Wednesdays, and it was this arts program where we would coach the kids over the course of like 12 weeks. And then over time, Mark Nelson, who was directing it, ended up having to take on another role and was looking for a director. And so I stepped into that role. Opportunities started to unfold for us to expand and grow to other locations, other campuses at Kensington. And the real turning point was when the schools came to us and said, hey, we're really in need of some supportive arts programs. Could you help us? And we thought, okay, let's replicate what we do. Let's try it out. So we kind of went all in on this vision that we felt God gave us, and we changed the name officially to Kaleo, and it means to invite.
Everybody has been familiar with the Kaleo program. It had been around before our partnership with them. But at a point, we just saw the need really to invite our school partners' kids into this beautiful program. We took a risk. Renee took a risk in saying, yes, this is important. And so we have had this beautiful relationship with our school partners where we have kids from the campus and kids from our schools who are doing Kaleo Kids together. And actually we've had, at one point, up to 4 schools that were hosting the Kaleo program. And so our schools were really welcoming in having the campus kids and their kids working together.
We were really nervous the first time we went in, mostly because these kids really hadn't done anything like this before. And, we come in with our, loud music and we're getting them moving, and we're not hard on them, but we do challenge them and we keep them, on their toes the whole time. And we didn't really know if they would love it or what they would think. But by the end of the session, to watch these kids come in literally asking, like, what is a dance class? Are we gonna wear tutus and ballet shoes? To, in the end, learning an entire piece and going up in front of their whole school and confidently dancing and feeling proud of what they did. It was such like a joyful thing for everybody. Even the teachers just were shocked to see some of their kids up there leading. We wanted them to have a bigger vision that when you know who you are, which we believe you are a child of God, and we really wanted kids to understand that. So it's really fun because the arts kind of can open up something in a child that might not show in other ways. And so when you have this team of people that love God and they're listening to God in the moments to say, hey, what can I do to help reach or connect with this kid? It really becomes this amazing opportunity for God to create something that we would not have seen otherwise.
We actually hosted a songwriters workshops for 2 of our schools for 4th and 5th graders. And the song lyrics that came out of those sessions were truly amazing. I mean, themes about beauty and our differences. You know, we're stronger together. There's color in our emotions. I mean, just really big feeling and, you know, topics for kids in 4th and 5th grade. And they were just amazing. The kids loved it. Whenever we'd come in, they'd say, "When are the music people coming back?" You know, but it gave voice. It gave them a way to express their feelings, their ideas, their thoughts, their voice.
Our dream would be that we would be able to expand in these schools, offer more programs to the kids there. We get asked by teachers all the time, can we take on more students or, you know, move on to this school? But really it's the relationship piece that we're really passionate about. And so I think that would be the dream.
Renee's passion, not only for the arts, but for the kids and bringing kids and people together is just, it's contagious. You know, her joy and her love for this is truly contagious.
We had a student a while back who had been in our program for years, and it was his 5th grade year that he actually auditioned and received one of our lead roles, and he hadn't really had one before. And it was kind of one of those risks as a director and as the teachers. We were like, I think he's ready for this. Let's give it a go. We all felt, you know, that this was his time. And he really did an incredible job. And the cool part of the story is the mom came back to us later and said that this was such an important mark for her son, who had Asperger's, which we didn't even know, and was really struggling, and had entered into the school one day to volunteer. And the lady at the front desk said, "Hey, you should go in the cafeteria. He's up there doing announcements for everybody right now." And she was just completely blown away that he had come, you know, so far, and just his confidence and his just, you know, even just to be himself among his peers. Before the pandemic, we had about 6 locations in different schools and at different campuses, and we're reaching about 300 kids at the time. And now, since the pandemic, we've had to really adjust and kind of recalibrate our program and pivot what we do. And so we've just been really creative and, you know, try to have some fun with the limitations. And we've done some crazy things. We've done Kaleo Prize Week, where we put these YouTube videos out. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we did them every day, where kids could go and learn a skill and submit something that they create after it. And we would draw names and send prizes to kids. And we sent tons of ukuleles out to students and gave them free lessons on YouTube, which was a fun way for them to look back and say, hey, I learned a new skill over my quarantine. We also decided to move our programs outside this fall, which was really crazy. We are not outdoorsy people, but we made it happen, and we had the kids meeting outside. We found creative ways to space them out and do their dancing and their drama. They didn't really miss any part of the Kaleo magic this year. Somehow we were able to do it. And we filmed all their pieces. So we would film their performances and put together a big show. I want the students to know how loved they are by God, how special and unique they are. They don't have to prove themselves to anyone, and that there's a beautiful future for them. And when they trust God and they just continue following Him, they're going to experience that joy, and they're going to overcome trials, and they're going to really shine in their uniqueness.
Renee and her team do such a wonderful job pouring into our young students, training them to be powerful leaders, not only within Kensington, but as you heard, out into the community, into our schools. I was here in the very beginning when Mark had the School of the Arts, and he had a vision for children. And I remember him saying this, that they're not just cute kids, that they are powerful leaders for God's kingdom. And Renee has taken that and just moved that into our community, training kids and letting them know how deeply they are loved by Christ. I can't help but hear that story and then come to a scripture in Matthew 18, one of my favorite ones about children. It says this, at the time, Jesus' disciples came to him and asked him this question, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? He called a child among them and he put him in his lap. And he says this, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever becomes humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, and whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. This kind of work that Renee is doing is pouring into the next generation and giving them confidence and vision to go out and change the world in Jesus' name. This is what we're about at Kensington. And so as we head into the new year, this year is coming to a close, I would ask you this. Would you pray and consider giving a year-end gift to Kensington? It's these Christmas gifts that you give that actually fuels these kind of ministries all year long. I'm so grateful that we can see this and be a part of it. Thank you so much for your generosity. I can't wait to see what God's going to do in 2021.
Not good. I love what Renee said when she talked about the kids shining out their unique design. Because I really think that that's part of God's heart for all of us, is that the unique way he has formed us and put his image and likeness into us is that we would shine that uniqueness that is you and you alone, that you would shine that into the world and create something. Create what you want to create what points ultimately to Jesus. And what's so cool for me is being in charge of our church planning department here, I have the opportunity to be in touch with so many different churches all around our country on a regular basis. And I can tell you genuinely, Kensington is so unique in a way that constantly just gives me pride. And I know everybody, because we've all got people everywhere we go. We've got our things we're trying to figure out. We've got our struggles, but there is something so beautifully unique that God has created here. And here's what I just keep being reminded of. Everything that we have been able to do as a community that has been powerful and unique and has drawn people to Jesus is only because of every one of you. Because of you being committed to this place. So this is where we want to, like Danny said, is just take a minute. And if you got one of these when you walked in, you should have hopefully got one of these brochures as you walked in, our year-end giving. And I just want to highlight a couple of things in here as you take this out. And if you're not with us in person this morning, you're watching online, you can go to kensingtonchurch.org/gift, and you can find this online digitally. Scroll down to the end of the page, and that's where you'll find it. But this really just talks about so many of the things that we have done throughout the year, are doing throughout this next year as well. I could spend forever going through here. This is so incredible. A couple pages that, for me, as I was reading through, just really leapt out to highlight. Our church planning, which is so near and dear to my heart, being director of our church planning here. We have an unbelievable reputation as a church planning church. In the last number of years since Kensington's start, we have planted just shy of 90 churches that have come out of your commitment to what we're about as a community. As a matter of fact, I don't know how many of you know this, but we have been driven many years now by a vision called 2020. There's a vision Steve Andrews brought to us some years ago to see 40 multiplying churches launched by the year 2020, together reaching around 250,000 people. Well, we're in year 2020 now, and I recently was able to share with our executive team that we did it. We planted, like I said, almost 90 churches, and we were well north of 250,000 people, and here we are 2020. Like, that's your commitment to what we're doing as a community. I would also highlight 1829 in here because I've got a 17-year-old on the brink of being 18, which is crazy. I shared with somebody recently that that's probably the craziest experience in my life right now, is trying to figure out how to be a parent to a kid who's almost an adult. And so like a ministry like 1829 for me is so crucial and so personal to who I am. Also, our new global partner, I encourage you to read through this as you get to this page, the Timothy Initiative. Through the Timothy Initiative, we will have the opportunity this year on a global level to plant thousands of churches more than we would have been able to otherwise. Like, there are partnerships that are developed and developing, efforts and impacts that are going to take place this next year, many of which, I don't know if you realize this, are fueled by your generous giving and year-end giving that happens this month. What happens in the month of December, sincerely, it generates so much of what we're able to do throughout the rest of the year. So I would just unapologetically ask you, as we're all thinking about who to gift to and how to gift to as we come into this month and into the Christmas season, is that you would sincerely go before God and ask him, would he have you do something above and beyond a year-end gift to continue to make these moments and so many more happen like you saw on screen, like you can read about here, and like so many of you are literally the living personal testimony of. So we have one last video of Mark. It's very short, but I think it's the perfect way for us to transition into our closing song because it's him singing what is really the heartbeat behind all of this, which is that we would come to Jesus. Here's Mark one last time.
And with your final heartbeat, kiss the world goodbye, and go in peace and laugh on glory's side, and fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus, fly to Jesus. Before the beginning of time, with no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of a light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship so alive, I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises so alive, God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature in silence follow the sound of your voice. Ooh, and as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature so alive, I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas for your grace. If creation still obeys failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear, yeah. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. Every precious one, the child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them so, like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
Yeah. Killer. So I've had this one thought just leading into this series, knowing that for the next couple weeks we're going to be looking at the life of Mark and Dave and Steve and their wives, and just the call that God put on them. They had no idea when God gave them this idea of Kensington, what was at stake had they said no. Neither do you. You have no idea what's at stake if you say no to even what seems like the simplest or the most difficult requests of God. You are a creative, you are an artist. And I hope and pray that you're not just excited or inspired by a story like Mark's, but that you own it as yours. And you walk out of here this morning with a commitment and a passion, maybe doubled down on like never before, to create beauty that points to the ultimate creator. And to never forget that you have no idea what's at stake if you say no to the simple ways that God nudges you to create beauty in a relationship, beauty in a moment, beauty at your workplace, beauty in your family, beauty in your church. There's more at stake than you could ever imagine. May we be people who say yes and create what points to the Creator. So glad you were with us this morning. So glad for the next couple weeks as we celebrate our heritage and ultimately the future that's still in front of us. So have an incredible week, and we will see you next Sunday. Bye.